Welcome. Another day of Bhagavad Gita exploration, also known as sadhana. Sadhana is a consistent practice done over a period of time with faith that it is having benefit for you. And we've been doing this now for 204 days. Pretty good. And hopefully the ideas, these teachings will percolate into your life and make your life better on all levels. So we're revisiting the verse from yesterday in chapter 6. And what we talked about, why don't I just reread it? And I know some of you are joining in, not at the beginning. So I'm reading from my translation, which the goal was to recreate the original rhythm of this great poem. So this is the original rhythm, one of the ways to chant it. And this is verse 17 in chapter 6. Yoga becomes the destroyer of pain for one who moderates his diet, his recreation, and work, his sleep and wakefulness. What a delightful, for me, definition of yoga, especially as I get older and the choices of the past catch up to my body. It doesn't have to be about complex poses, anything fancy. It really can be on the mat and off the mat as well. And actually, in India, where I studied for a while, it's traditional not to even practice on a mat. Interesting. Okay, this practice is dedicated to Vera, by the way, who deserves all the support that comes to her. And I do want to make a remark here about pronouns. In the translation and in many translations, we use the his, the masculine pronoun, his diet, his recreation. And this can be seen because Krishna is talking specifically to a being embodied and identifying as a male. But in many places in the Gita, it's kind of a third person word in the Sanskrit, which means it could be translated as any gender. So you can translate this to apply it to yourself. And what we're talking about, what we talked about yesterday is in this culture in the West, it's super hard to find that balance often between work and recreation. Work is highly praised, and taking a break or taking rest or taking care of yourself. In fact, I was watching a video, a satirical video about what it's like to be sick now versus in 2019 before the pandemic. It was funny because in 2019 you'd feel a little sick or a lot sick or ragingly sick, and you'd still be expected to go to work and sit with all your coworkers and breathe, and then they all get sick. But if you took time off, oh my gosh. And now, and especially the past couple of years, you get a sniffle and you go into work and everybody's like, why are you here? So the culture has changed slightly, but it took a pandemic to do it. It took suffering. Why take suffering to do this? Why not find a way to balance your work and recreation? And one way that we talked about yesterday is to find an element of recreation in your work somehow. How does the work restore you, not just drain you? Can you have self-care habits that allow work to be more, I should say, just less debilitating in all aspects of life? And if we kind of look at it the other way today, can you make what you find to recreate you into, I'm going to use quotes here, work? Because often we associate work with a particular mindset, a particular way of going about things. But so, for example, when I was writing this translation, which to a lot of people would seem like work, I found it so rejuvenating for my body, my mind. My energy was boosted. I just came away after hours of translating with like more joy in life and more feeling of satisfaction, like I was really doing something I was meant to do. And for a while, that was just on its own. I worked to make money, I had my commitments, and I did the translation as recreation. Well, let me tell you, the first day somebody other than people I was related to or had in my class actually bought the book, it was like validation. And when I was invited recently to speak in Phoenix based on the book, I don't know, it just took things to a different level. It's like having others acknowledge that what you know in your soul is your destiny is beneficial for the world as well. So I'm not proposing that you sit down and make your hobby into work. Like, I'm going to do it 40 hours a week, this time to this time, and I'm not going to let myself go to the bathroom when I want to or eat when I want to. 'Cause, but if there's some way you can bring what recreates you into your workspace, so instead of looking at your workspace and saying, what can I pick out that recreates me here, but bringing what recreates you outside of work into work, it can be something like, for example, I have a colleague who studied to be a yoga teacher, but works full time, doesn't have a lot of time for yoga teaching, but decided to offer the human resources department to teach like short little lunchtime yoga classes a couple of times a week. And people came, and that for her, it just boosted her spirit. And it made work more meaningful too, and her work connections. So, is there any way that you can bring what recreates you into what puts food on the table or supports you materially? Can you bring spirit to the material? Can you find a balance there? You can be awfully creative with that, you know. And work doesn't have to be in a workplace. Raising a child is work, and it's some of the most important work you can do. But can you find recreation in that as well? Shall we practice? You're talking a lot about balance, so we have our balance pose, and then we'll have our contemplation. I'm taking good care of my knee lately by sitting in a chair. Take good care of yourself as we do this seemingly simple and basic pose. There, now you can see me talk. Switch. Excelente. All right. Time for yourself. I mean, often we think, yeah, it would be nice to bring recreation to work, but how do I do that? Well, I don't have the time right now to think about it. So now you have 5 minutes to think about it. Oh, by the way, if you're retired, you might still work at caregiving for others as well. So something to immerse your thoughts in for the next 5 minutes. Welcome back. Welcome back. I wonder if you got any good ideas. If you ever need support in this area, this is something I've been working on for a couple decades. Um, I know a lot of you watch this later, so I'll put down a link right below this in the summary where you can contact me directly if you'd like some support or coaching or inspiration for bringing recreation to work. Because those two don't have to fight each other like Godzilla and King Kong in many movies. In their latest movie, Godzilla and King Kong work together. If they can work together, so can the various parts of us. So then give blood. All right. Have a wonderful whatever comes next. And until we see each other again.